There we go. Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, April the 4th. I hope you all are enjoying the beginning of spring and loving the weather. And also, if you were pranked on April Fool's Day, I hope it wasn't mean. I hope it was fun. We are here today to answer your questions. We have asked everyone to stay unmuted so that we can have audience participation. And Charles is going to be answering many of the questions. I'll chime in once in a while, so you'll be able to see and hear all of us, or both of us. And we want you to be able to feel free to ask questions, even if you think that it might not be the best question. There is no such thing as a dumb question, none at all. So we want you to feel comfortable and free, and we are recording this, so it'll be up on the Vimeo website as soon as we finish here, as well as YouTube as soon as our access is granted to our editor, so we can get those uploaded as well. So go to Vimeo first, and that link is in your invitation. So without further ado, Charles, would you like to start?
Yes, I would. So everybody can see my screen, I hope. And then Saundra, what is the first question that we have? We already had some questions already set up today in case anybody didn't ask any. So if we have one that's coming up, go ahead and let Saundra know, and she can have you ask it. Or what is the first one that we have in lieu of that?
Okay, the first one that we have is the did you know part. Did you know that we have notifications in Dash that when you land on your home landing page, and that's where Charles is right now, that we put in reminders like your payroll is due at 1 o'clock, and the next day deposits, a reminder about that. They are also due 2 days prior to your check date at 1 p.m. If it's less than that, then there is a fee for late submission, and so we don't want to have you spending $25 on your payroll. We'd rather see you spend $25 on a party for your team. So please pay attention to those. Oftentimes we will put in our office closures or the bank closures that might affect your payroll processing date. And so we want to make sure that you understand and know that, so that you know where to look just in case you missed our emails that we send out. It will always be in Dash. And our question to you is, if you want to type in the chat anything that might be helpful to you that we could put in our notifications in Dash, other than when payroll's due or their office closures. If there's something that you'd like to know or that you feel would be important to put in the Dash notification section, we would be happy to include that. For example, minimum wage, when that's due, or the new FUTA credits, and we'll be talking about that in a moment.
Yes,
okay.
And also included in this is one question I've always had with this, a reminder that your time to submit the payroll is 1 p.m. That's the day that it's actually due. And you'll see that date under the current payroll process by. There's nothing in there for our sample right here, but it will have a date as to what day it's actually due, and you just have to submit it by 1 p.m. And another thing is we do add other messages besides the payroll deadline or the next day direct deposit deadline. And those, when they first come up, will come up as a pop-up that you can dismiss. It's a notice of, say, sometimes we'll put them in there for federal holidays, things like that. They'll also appear, once you dismiss that pop-up, they will appear in the message section right here.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's go to the audience. Do you have any questions that you'd like to throw out right now?
I don't have any questions yet. I think this is all a great start.
Okay, well then, Charles, you want to go to the next question? The next question is,
go ahead.
Are the SUI rates in different states? What do you need to do?
Well, for the SUI rates, what happens is each state will have their own state unemployment rate. And that's different from the federal. So when you receive a notice, and they do change every year, the SUI rates are based upon your experience, such as how many people have you had hired that have claimed unemployment and things like that. And so those change every year. So some states like New Jersey, they change them in July. Most states, though, they will change them in January. So January 1, you have a new state unemployment insurance rate. Or you may not. It may be that there's no change because you get the best rate. You've had no unemployment claims. You've got a super record with the state unemployment. But others, they may go lower right? If you experienced fewer claims than previously, they'll go lower. Your experience rating is improved. If you experience more claims or some other kind of relationship, then it may go higher. But you will get these notices, most of them around January. They'll get them before January, actually. You should be getting them before then. And they are effective January 1st of the new year. The important thing is to provide those to us as soon as you receive them, because we do not receive them. They're sent out not to the payroll service provider, but to the entity, right? The business entity, that the employer. So when you get those, you send them in to us and we make sure that they're going to be adjusted accordingly. Now, if there are any payrolls that processed under the old rate, like say you send it to us, say in February, and we've already processed your January, then we will collect that outstanding tax liability. It's not really outstanding, it's due at the end of the quarter. We will collect it to pay it at the end of the quarter. So if you had a difference, right, a couple of payrolls that processed under the old rate, then in April of this month, you will be getting an additional debit if that's the case. Or it may be that you get a credit because your rate went down. So that's something to look out for in April if you have that kind of situation. And it's kind of like, which is the next question, the FUTA credit reduction, where we have to collect it at a certain time of the year. Since I led into that, because the two are kind of the same, the FUTA credit reduction would have happened on your side in January. And what is that? That's the federal unemployment tax, right? And basically what happens is everybody that in the nation has a the same tax rate for federal unemployment. But there's also a credit against that if you're in good standing or if you're in a state that is in good standing, right? So California, unfortunately, because we had to take loans during the pandemic to fund the state unemployment program, we are owing the federal government some money, right, for the state unemployment. And in order to make up for that, the credit that you normally receive is reduced. Now, this is covered on the IRS website. It's covered on the EDD website where they mention it, and they also talk about what that is for California. There's I think Puerto Rico is also affected, and maybe another state, I'm not sure, but that is something we can only collect in January, because which states are having that credit reduced is announced in November, and so we don't know that until the end of the year, and that's when we collect it. And you will actually see on your Form 940, right? That's your annual unemployment reconciliation, your Form 940. You will see where it lists the credit reduction. It's on line 11 where they mention it, and then on the schedule of payments, it will show you where it is and what states are affected and how much it is. So that is something. Now, it's already happened this year. We don't know yet if 2024, I mean, it's already happened for 2023. We don't know yet if 2024 is going to be a credit reduction state. Just something to bear in mind that we received that information in November. And I believe we did send out like emails advising people of this. So being sure to look out not just for our notifications on Dash, but also for any emails that we send out, because those are important.
And it's important too to check your spam, because sometimes our emails go into your spam folder just because of the title. It may look like spam. So please do check your spam periodically for PayrollCentric emails.
Yeah. Does anybody have a question about the FUTA credit reduction? They'll need more explanation on that one, because that is a tricky concept to get a hold of. It took me a little while.
No, but I think that was a good explanation of it, so that we can kind of be refreshed and reminded.
Well, thank you. I like it when my explanations go over well.
Okay. The next one is PayrollCentric doesn't automatically update your account regarding maybe employee rates for minimum wage increases or accruals, etc. So what should our clients do in that case?
What our clients should do is they can reach out to us, and we can do a blanket increase across their company, but there is an additional fee because that involves additional work. We have to get our data, we have to get our IT people involved. So it is additional work to run that in the background. So depending upon the size of your company and how many people are at that threshold, you may want us to handle that, or just go in and take care of it yourself. It's just a simple thing of increasing their rate when the minimum wage comes due. Now, we have gone over how you can find out about the minimum wages increases. Is you just keep it informed through looking at the state websites, right? Like the California Department of Industrial Relations is a good website to review, because that one will tell you what the schedule is. It did have the schedule for all those minimum wage increases until it came up, and the law is that the minimum wage does increase annually depending upon inflation. So that's why we're currently at, I think, $16 an hour, and then they recently added for fast food franchises $20 an hour and things like that. So you do want to keep up to date with those. The Economic Policy Institute, which is, I'm going to go ahead and add right here, pull them up. The Economic Policy Institute has a minimum wage tracker you can use. Now, sometimes this is not updated right away, so you may not see it just at the time that the minimum wage goes into effect. But if I look at California, right, it just shows a 16. It doesn't say anything about the restaurant one, simply because that is specific to an industry. But you can see where they also cover individual areas that will have a different minimum wage than the state, possibly most likely higher. So you do have this available to you as a resource, and the state websites, the state and municipal websites. You always want to check those to see what the minimum wage is going to be. Good idea is to check sometime in December to see if there's something you have to worry about. That's just and things like the other thing that will be covered by those websites is on the Department of Industrial Relations. It went over the change in the sick accruals. Now the sick time has changed as of January, so you do want to know about that. And again, we can make changes across your entire company, but it involves like gathering information, whose rates are going to be changing. There's a spreadsheet that would be involved, and there are additional fees. If there's anything you need assistance with, we can walk you through it, but it just depends on the size of your company as to whether or not that would be needed, or just going in and changing a couple of people. The other thing I've noticed is you do want to check about that is wage deflation, because when you have minimum wage increases, you do also want to look at the people who are working more than minimum wage, right? They're already getting a couple of raises and things like that, how they get impacted as well. So you do want to take care of all of your employees and not just the people who are minimum wage.
Can you define wage deflation? That's a new term.
Yes. Wage deflation is where you're getting a certain rate of pay and then it doesn't change, but everybody else does with minimum wage increases. So it's sort of like, I was getting this much an hour and now it's not worth as much.
Okay.
Can you explain how we would be able to calculate that so that it keeps pace?
It would be, I would think that it would be something that would be, you'd want to look at the employees who received raises, right? How much they're making now, and what the market demands for their type of responsibilities. And also you also consider the person, right? It's like, because as minimum wage increases, then the value of your workers who have been there for a while and gotten raises should also increase rather than decrease. And it's it's an individual thing. It has to be with each individual.
Okay.
But the other thing is looking at what the market has, because I've seen stuff where people say it's like, I could just like apply for a job at my current place and probably make more than what I'm getting now for the same job. So you want to be careful with that. It's like if you're seeing that people at that with those responsibilities who are good employees, and what the market is demanding for that, you do want to take that into account.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's good. Okay. If there aren't any questions from the gallery, we've got a couple more here. We had a webinar back in March regarding employees who work out of state and what are the responsibilities for the employer regarding that. I'm happy to address that one for you. If you have a company that's in California, but you've hired a remote worker, say in Arizona, you need to do two things. The first one is you need to register in that state for whatever taxes are involved in that state. So if it's withholding or if it's unemployment, you need to register for those numbers. We do have the links that we can provide to you that will get you there more quickly. And we can also help you. In fact, Nevada is kind of a wonky state to try and get a number for. We've got a step-by-step how to do this, helpful hint chart for you to have a look at. To get you through that process. And then the other thing you need to do is make sure that you provide your employee with the appropriate tax withholding form for that state. So Arizona's got a different one than California does. The other thing we need to do is make sure that once you get your registration approved and you have your new number, we needed a new power of attorney for that state so that we can file your state taxes or withholding taxes or unemployment taxes. We can't do anything without the power of attorney. Some states have gone totally online, so there aren't any more paper copies. And so all you need to do in that case is to download and PDF it and then send that to us to update your account, knowing that you now have an employee in another state. The main question that we get is, well, my company's in California. Why do I need to register in the state of Nevada just because I have an employee there? Well, the answer is pretty simple. If you sit in another state, that employee is taxed the way the state is taxed. And then you pay your taxes on whatever that state is at the end of the year. So you'll end up having different state calculations when we do your year-end taxes. And the employee will get a W-2 relative to the proper state. If there's no withholding, then their W-2 will be different. And they'll also be able to, but you'll be able to know what your unemployment taxes are, because almost every state has unemployment, but not every state has state withholding tax.
Yeah, that's true. Every state will have an unemployment tax. New Jersey, even, I believe, has a portion that is paid by the employee, but not every state has an income tax. For instance, Washington does not have an income tax. Florida does not. Nevada does not. I think there's like
Tennessee.
Tennessee does not. I couldn't remember if it was Tennessee or Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so that can get tricky. I mean, I've heard, for instance, Washington has a sales tax, but Oregon has an income tax. So I've heard of people in Vancouver actually traveling over to Portland in order to shop, so they don't have to pay the sales tax in Washington. So it's like like a bridge ride away. But that's an important note, is to consider when you have somebody who is living in one state and working in another. This is something that I've had come up before, is what taxes are they liable for in that case? I can say that for income taxes, most of the states regard it this way. If the employee is living in a state, then they owe income tax in that state for all their income. If they're working in a different state than where they live, they owe income tax for the wages they earn in that state where they work. And so that there is like a distinction for the income tax. When it comes to unemployment, that gets tricky because that's based on your work, who you're reporting to. There's a tiered structure. So whenever I have a question about that, I always tell the clients, check with the state unemployment agencies for both states. We have had instances where the client comes back and go, okay, this is the state that they're going to be owing unemployment to, and it is not the state that they're working in or that they're living in because of this reason. And usually if you leave it up to the agency, then if it comes back and says, hey, you owe us money, it's like, no, because you told me how to do this. That's why I always like to go to the agencies directly rather than go to, it's sort of like going to the plumber for a dental problem. You don't want to do that.
Also, you also want that confirmation in writing, so that you have proof when they come back and say you owe us taxes. You say, nope, here's my proof.
Yep.
Okay. Why did a payroll not process, Charles? What happened?
Well, there can be different reasons, but the number one reason I found that I wanted to address is simply this. So basically it's this. It's like we've started the payroll, we've made the entries, right? You run the pre-process register. We've done the audit. Okay, approved. We'll approve this one. All right. That's retrieving the data. It was still thinking, so I'll approve it. I'll approve this one. And then we go to finish, and the batches are locked. And this is what it looks like, and people will call up and go, hey, why didn't my payroll process? Because they think the locking of the batches will complete it. No. The easiest way to tell if your payroll has been submitted is looking at these arrows. I always refer to these arrows. They're a great tool to use in your payroll process. If finish is clear like this, it has not been submitted. So you need to go to finish, and right here where it says close and submit, you click on that, that's what submits it. Then it automatically takes you back here, and that finish right there is gray with a green check mark. Gray with a green check mark means that's completed. And so when it's clear, it's not completed. And that's what I've run into. When people say, hey, my payroll didn't process, I look in here, I see that clear finish, and know immediately what happened.
Sometimes people will start their payroll processing and they get interrupted and move on to something else and forget that they forgot to submit. So it's primarily the interruptions, the user error. It's very seldom that there's a glitch in our system where it will not process unless something has gone wrong with our server. But that is so rare. I can count on one hand when that has occurred, and I've been here a long time.
The other thing is you'll see here, if you don't see a status like of submitted or it's removed on to the next check date, you know that the payroll's not been completed.
We had a question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. I have two questions actually. One on the process by date. Let's say there's a 3 or 4 day window for processing, and the payroll date is the 5th of April, let's say you process on the very first day that it's open or possible, will it only submit the payroll to the bank on that payroll date? Like, is the 2 day window start when you process it, or does the process date always remain the same no matter how many days are in between when you process it and the payroll?
That's actually a couple of good questions. So
Absolutely.
One, and it involves many different things. One is the calendars we have in here are not set in stone. They are based on the information that you provide us. So if you need to have a change in the calendar, you let us know. We will change it. We're not going to sit here and go, no, you can't do this because it has to be this date. Absolutely not. It's whatever date you want it to be. Okay. That being said, the direct deposits, the reason we have those 2 days is because it may take 2 days for the receiving banks to post that direct deposit. So we're required when you have direct deposit to submit the payroll at least 2 banking days prior to the check date. And so that's why we give the notifications of federal holidays to be careful around those, because on federal holidays, those banks are closed. That adds another day to the time frame.
Correct.
And then there's also the weekends. That comes into play with people who are, say, semi-monthly or monthly, and the date changes. For biweekly and weekly people, it's always like, say, that Friday never changes, unless July 4th happens to land on a Friday. Interesting fact, I worked at July 4th at an amusement park in food. That was not fun. Yeah, so that's why we have that 2-day direct deposit guideline. It's just so that the banks will have enough time to receive our files and then to deposit the money into your employees' accounts. And so there's your bank, and then there's the employee's bank, and then the transaction we coordinate between the two. And so we need to have that time. That being said, if you submit payroll, say, 3 days in advance, does that change the when we will be debiting your account? No. All our debits are governed by the check date and not the day you process. So if you send it to us a week ahead of time, we would naturally ask you if that was intended or if you wanted to have a check date in between. But if you said, yes, that's intended, we will process it, and it will still come out, say, the day before the check date or 2 days before the check date, depending upon what's set up for your account. And we set it up either way. So no, It's not, if you send it a week ahead of time, you don't need that.
Great. Thank you so much. My second question is when it shows the progress, the green
Oh,
On
you
the
mean
chevrons.
at the
Go
top.
back to the payroll, yes. Yeah.
Yes, I did notice that they'll all show up green except for entry. So when I go to finish, for whatever reason, entry doesn't always show up as like a
So it's
finish.
always clear. The reason is for that locked batches. So let me run the pre-process register again, just so I can get it. All right. And you notice how totals was completed, but it's green when I'm on it. So that's the only
Correct.
distinction, but that check mark is there. So why is entry not grayed out? Because the only way to complete the entry is to lock batches. Now you can do that after running the pre-process register right away. I don't like to. I like to go through the audit to see if there's anything I need to change, because when you lock the batches, in order to make any other changes to it, you have to unlock it afterwards. You can like it that way, because when you unlock after previously locking, it requires you to run the pre-process register again. You should always run the pre-process register after you've made your last change to the payroll and before you submit. We have had cases where people will go, but it's not on the pre-process register. Yeah, but you made a change after you ran this.
Right.
At that point, why I say I don't worry about locking the batches until the end, because if I need to send the pre-process register to my boss to approve, or to say, oh no, we're putting commissions in on this payroll, you have to go back in and enter commissions, it just saves you an extra step. So we have this lock all batches right here. And when I click on that and it asks me if I'm sure, that's when it's grayed.
Great. Okay. Good. I think I've never really noticed the correlation on that, because I just go to lock the batches and then I finish so quickly. I didn't even notice that the entry would populate as completed. So thank you.
And to unlock it, you just go back to totals and you'll click on the button. And you notice how after I unlock it, it's grayed out. This is requiring me to run the pre-process register again because of that setup. So either way is great. It just depends on which procedure you prefer.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I have a question for you, Charles.
Yes.
What if Charla, who is amazing, forgets somehow, or she's taken away from her desk and she doesn't process her payroll 2 days before the check date? What does she do now?
She contacts us to let us know.
And then what happens?
Well, we will just make sure that we get that through. If it's like the day before, there may be a fee to try and get it passed through. But we will still make sure. We will not hold up the payroll and keep your employees from being paid on the day that they're due simply for this reason.
Isn't that cool? I just love that fail-safe, and that's why I wanted Charles to answer that question. Some of our
just to let you know, I have used that option, so thank you for that.
Life happens, right? We have some companies who prefer, like if there is a holiday that falls on a check date, they prefer to pay their employees afterwards. For sometimes it's because of cash flow purposes and things like that, and that's okay too. You just need to let us know. And so when we set up your account, the customary question is, if it falls on a holiday or a weekend, if your check date falls on holiday or weekend, we ask you, do you want us to process the business day before that occurs or the business day after that occurs? And that's how your account is set up. Sometimes the account is set up by someone else. They leave, and then somebody else takes over the payroll process, and they wonder how come their people didn't get paid. And that's because originally we set it up for after. So that is something in fact, Christopher, that's something for you to check on as you work with your clients, because we want to make sure that we pay your people when you want your people to be paid and when your bank account has the funds to do so.
The only thing we really can't do is have direct deposits deposited in your employees' accounts the same day as the payroll is submitted.
Right.
Even if it's the same check, even if it's that, like say you forget to do your payroll until the 5th, like you see here, the check date of the 5th. It's like, I need to do my payroll. We're not going to be able to get the direct deposits in there. And it's not because we wouldn't want to, it's because the banks, the ACH system the banks use for direct deposits cannot work that fast. So in those instances, what we do is we work with you, like say, do you want to have all live checks? And we can, for an additional fee, have it delivered that same day. Or if you want us to change the check date, or if you want to even just cut the checks on your side, all manual checks. We are willing to help you, however it is, because what I do when I'm on the line and there's an issue, my concern is how do we get your employees paid fastest, right?
Right.
I'll give options. And I'll say, but this is the quickest way.
And I'm really proud of PayrollCentric for doing that. We are not the ones who say, oh, well, you goofed. No. We want to get your people paid accurately and on time. And
we will never sit there and go, so too bad, so sad.
Right. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Charlotte, excellent questions. All right. So let me move on to the next question that we have. Why a direct deposit didn't go through? I said direct deposit, at least I thought I did. How come?
Okay, and I've actually come across this, and I'm going to show you a couple of times what's happened on this is, and I have somebody set up specifically for that, is I look here, and it looks great. Oh, I'm actually on pay rate, so I'm going to go to direct deposit, and this looks great. It's got the routing number, it's got the account number, all that, but look here. All right, let me see if I can get this. Look here. There is no information here about where the pay is supposed to go, right? So there's no percentage or flat amount. You can have either one, flat amount or percentage, but it's zero. So it's saying don't deposit anything. So you either want to put in a flat dollar amount or a percentage, or on this one where it says deposit entire check remaining net pay to this account, mark it yes. Okay. And I go through this with every training that I do to make sure that they understand how to enter this. But I have had a couple of calls where the clients are doing the direct deposits themselves and they just missed this part. It's like they put in the routing number and the account number and they think that's all it's going to do. It's going to be, and the reason it doesn't automatically do all that is simply because there are going to be employees who have multiple direct deposits, and that's what this system is built to accommodate. So yeah, you do need to put that in.
And while we're on the topic of direct deposits, we do have an option. Some of our clients have employees that do not have bank accounts and they prefer a paper check. So you're paying for a delivery of a paper check. The alternative to that is we offer pay cards, and it's just like a debit card. So it does not cost the employer anything. What the employee does is they complete a direct deposit authorization card form, and then we deposit the net pay onto their debit card. It's or pay card. You can call it whatever you want. It works just like a debit card. They can use the debit card at a general ATM without a charge. They can use their debit card at merchants. They can use their debit card for transportation or to pay bills. It's just like a debit card. And it is issued by you to the employee. We provide the cards to you. And if you want more information on that, got my email, send me an email and I'll respond and show you how that works. And that way, if you're paying delivery fees for one or two checks, let's save you some money and convince the employee that a debit card is a better way to go. Also, they save that check cashing fee if they go to their local store to get that check cashed. It's a way to save them money too. So it's a good idea to check that out if you do have that situation in any of your employees, and for Chris, for any of your companies. Okay. Next question. What payroll report is needed? There's a prize for this one. What payroll report is needed for the WC audit, the workers' compensation audit? First one to answer. Come on, unmute yourselves. Who knows?
The labor and distribution report or something like that?
All right.
Only because I had to ask.
You have won an Amazon gift card from PayrollCentric. Make sure you give me your personal email address so we can get that over to you. All right.
I appreciate that, but I only know that because I've had to ask you guys that question many times.
And how many webinars have we done on how to get through a workers' compensation audit? Yeah, the labor distribution report is the only report you need unless your auditor is asking you for tax forms, and then you will find them where, Charles? Well, and Charlotte, Charlotte, where are you going to find those tax forms?
Under the report section of payroll.
Keep going. No.
Not for the
Keep
tax
going.
documents.
Tax documents.
Tax document is. Oh, you stumped me on that one.
Okay, who else knows? I'm giving you an
under
opportunity
company?
for a gift card. Nope.
Sorry.
Who else knows? Come on, unmute yourself and answer the question. You don't know? Charlotte, take a good guess. Point your pointer there, Charles.
I think it's under documents.
And then where are you going to find it?
Tax documents, I believe.
There you go. Yay, Charlotte.
Now, we don't have any here, obviously, because this is a sample company, but you will find your tax documents. These are the ones for your quarterly returns, the quarterly payroll returns, and those are the ones that the auditors usually ask for. Your 941s, your state returns, specifically the state returns that will list the employees' taxable wages. So that's going to be something that you look at here, and it's going to be here by quarter, right? So you're going to be wanting to get in 4 to 5 quarters, depending upon the period for the audit. That's important. And then the other thing that after you get those is, like Charlotte said, smart cookie there, is you go to the reporting and you go to labor distribution. And depending upon what you need for it, you can use either the HCR, which stands for hard-coded, or the regular labor distribution. And then when you select it, now here's a trick that you can do for future ones, is you can set up the override dates, and then you can put in the dates of the period for the audit, right? Say 1/1/2023 to 1/1/2024, right? That's the time for the audit. And I sort this by name. The reason I do that is because the labor distribution, aside from giving you the money that everybody made for the year and the taxable wages and all that, can also do distributed labor, meaning that it can show you for an individual employee where they earn their wages in your department, in your company structure, the cost centers, if you will. But for the workers' comp audit, you don't want that. You just want to sort it by name. And then you can go down here and click Save Company Reports. Just click there, labor distribution for WC audit, and you can save it. And when you save it, then it's under Save Company Reports. I love this feature in here because it allows you to take something, put in certain edit functions, and not have to redo it each and every time you need to run it. The only thing you would need to do for this, right, is you go to the labor distribution for WC audit, you go in and you just change the dates for each time you need it. It's that easy to do.
How about that? That is one of our core values, is ease. Compliance, ease, and care. So I hope that you felt the care that we have for our clients by having this Q&A. I hope you've discovered some things that will make your life easier. And we also talked about compliance regarding taxes and forms that are needed when you have out-of-state employees. That's our job, to help you be compliant with all of the laws that are involved in payroll. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you found the information useful, and we are very, very pleased and thankful that you are part of our PayrollCentric family. Goodbye for now.